AITA, for refusing to attend my sister's wedding after she uninvited my boyfriend last minute? 27F. Never thought I'd be posting here, but everything has blown up so badly in the last 2 weeks that I genuinely don't know if I'm in the wrong anymore. For context, my younger sister, Emily, 25F, and I have always had a complicated relationship. Growing up, she was very much the golden child. She was outgoing, pretty, effortlessly social, the kind of person people gravitate toward. I, on the other hand, was more reserved. Not shy exactly, but quieter, more independent. I had my own friends, my own interests, and I never really felt the need to compete with her. But our parents, they definitely compared us. Constantly. Emily got praised for everything: her looks, her personality, her achievements, even when we accomplished similar things. If I got an A, it was good job. If Emily got an A, it was you're amazing, we're so proud of you. It sounds small, but over years it builds. Despite that, I never hated her. I actually tried really hard to be a good older sister. I helped her with school and even covered for her a few times when she messed up. I thought we had a decent relationship, not super close but functional. Things started to shift when we got older. Emily has always cared a lot about appearances, how things look to other people. I didn't really care about any of that. I focused on my career, built my own life, and eventually moved out of state. About 3 years ago, I met my boyfriend, Daniel, 29M. Daniel is, honestly, the best partner I've ever had. He's kind, patient, and incredibly supportive. He's not flashy or loud, he's more on the quiet side, but he's genuine. He listens, he remembers things, and he treats me like I matter. That's something I didn't even realize I was missing until I met him. The only thing that seems to bother people sometimes is that he's not impressive in a traditional sense. He doesn't have a high-powered corporate job or a flashy lifestyle. He lives comfortably, but he's not rich. And apparently, that matters more to some people than I expected. The first time Emily met Daniel was about 1.5 years ago at a family gathering. She was polite, but I could tell almost immediately that she wasn't impressed. She kept asking him subtle, pointed questions about his job, his salary, his long-term plans. I brushed it off at the time, but Daniel noticed. Later that night, he told me, "Your sister doesn't like me." I told him he was overthinking it. He wasn't. Over the next year, it became a pattern. There was always some kind of comment. "Are you sure you're not settling? You've always been capable of more. I just want what's best for you." It was always framed as concern, but it never felt like concern. It felt like judgment. Still, I kept trying to keep the peace. Emily and I weren't super close, but she was my sister. I didn't want constant conflict. Then, about 8 months ago, she got engaged. Her fiancé, Ryan, is exactly the kind of guy you'd expect her to be with. He works in finance, comes from a wealthy family, dresses like he walked out of a magazine, and fits perfectly into the image Emily loves. When she announced the engagement, I was genuinely happy for her. I called her, congratulated her, and she sounded thrilled. For a moment, it felt like we were just normal sisters again. A few weeks later, she asked me to be one of her bridesmaids. I was honestly surprised. We weren't that close, but I said yes. I thought maybe this was her way of trying to strengthen our relationship. Looking back, I don't know if that was ever her intention. Wedding planning started almost immediately, and from the beginning, everything was intense. Emily had a very specific vision. Everything had to be perfect: the venue, the colors, the photos, the guest list. She talked a lot about how the wedding would look, not just in person, but in pictures and videos. At first, I just assumed she was stressed. Weddings are a big deal, and people get caught up in details. But then things started getting weird. She would make comments about the bridal party needing to match a certain aesthetic. She encouraged us to lose weight if needed, suggested specific hairstyles, and even talked about approved makeup looks. It felt less like being a bridesmaid and more like being part of a curated photo shoot. Daniel was supposed to attend as my plus one. That was never a question. He'd been with me for 3 years at that point. He's a huge part of my life. Or at least, I thought it wasn't a question. About 3 weeks ago, I got a call from Emily. At first, it was normal. Then, her tone shifted. She said, "So, I've been reviewing the guest list, and I think we need to make a few adjustments." I didn't think much of it. Weddings have limits, budgets, all that. Then she said, "I don't think Daniel should come." I actually laughed at first because I thought she was joking. She wasn't. I asked her what she meant, and she said very calmly that she didn't think he fit the vibe of the wedding. I wish I was exaggerating. She went on to explain that most of the guests were a certain type, and she didn't want anything to feel out of place. I just sat there trying to process what she was saying. I asked her if this was about his job. She didn't deny it. Instead, she said something that honestly made my stomach drop. "You know how people can be. They notice things, they talk. It reflects on all of us. All of us." Like my boyfriend was some kind of embarrassment. I told her that Daniel is important to me, that he's been in my life for years, and that I wasn't comfortable attending without him. She sighed, like I was being difficult, and said, "It's just one day. Can't you do this for me?" That really got to me, because it wasn't just one day. It was what it represented. I told her I needed time to think, and hung up. That night, I told Daniel everything. He was quiet for a long time. Then he said, "It's okay. You should go. It's your sister's wedding." That somehow made it worse, because he wasn't even angry. He just accepted it like he was used to being treated as less than. And I hated that. Over the next few days, Emily kept texting me about dresses, schedules, rehearsals, completely ignoring the conversation we had. So, I finally brought it up again and told her I wasn't okay with this. That's when things escalated. She accused me of making her wedding about me. She said I was being dramatic and selfish. She even said that if I really cared about her, I would just respect her wishes and move on. I asked her one simple question. If the roles were reversed, would you come to my wedding if I told you Ryan wasn't invited? She didn't answer. Instead, she said, "That's not the same." Of course it wasn't. Because in her mind, Daniel and Ryan aren't equal. That was the moment something in me kind of snapped. I told her that if Daniel wasn't welcome, then I wouldn't be coming either. There was a long pause, and then she said, "Fine, if that's your choice." Since then, everything has blown up. My parents are furious with me. They keep saying I'm ruining Emily's big day, that I'm being petty, that I should just suck it up. My mom even cried and said I'm tearing the family apart. Emily has told relatives her version of the story, which basically paints me as jealous and difficult. Some of my extended family have been messaging me, telling me I'm overreacting and that weddings are stressful, so I should be more understanding. Only a couple of people, including my best friend, are on my side. And now I'm stuck wondering if I really am the problem here. Because part of me feels like I'm standing up for myself and my relationship. But another part of me wonders if I should have just gone along with it for the sake of peace. So, AITA, for refusing to attend my sister's wedding after she uninvited my boyfriend last minute? Update. After the initial conversation with Emily, I honestly thought maybe things would calm down if I gave my family some space. That was naive. Very, very naive. Within a couple of days, my phone started blowing up with texts and calls. My parents, cousins, aunts, and uncles, almost everyone on that side of the family were reaching out. And it wasn't polite. It was all, "You're making this about yourself. You're ruining Emily's big day. Why can't you just let this go?" At first, I tried to respond calmly. I explained that Daniel is my partner, that I've been with him for 3 years, and that him not being welcome at my sister's wedding was not something I could accept. I tried to phrase it reasonably, hoping to appeal to their sense of fairness. It didn't work. Instead, my mom called me one evening, and it became clear that nothing I said was getting through. She was crying, which only made me feel worse, because she was twisting her own emotions to guilt me. "You're tearing the family apart," she said. Can't you just think about your sister for one day? One day, and you're willing to ruin everything. I took a deep breath and told her something I've been holding back for years. I said, "Mom, I love you, but this isn't just about a day. You've always had your favorites. Emily has always been the golden child, the one who gets praised no matter what she does, and I've spent my whole life trying to live up to that. And now, when it comes to something important to me, you're all asking me to compromise, not because it's fair, but because Emily says so." There was silence on the line. Then she said quietly, "Don't you think you're overreacting?" "No," I said firmly. "I'm standing up for myself and my relationship. If you can't respect that, then maybe you need to think about your own role in this." That conversation ended with no resolution, but it was the first time I actually felt like I was being honest about my feelings instead of just trying to appease everyone. The next confrontation was with Emily herself. I called her after a few days of heated texting. She picked up, and the first thing she said was, "Can't you just come and not bring Daniel? It's not a big deal. Just this once." I took a deep breath, trying to keep my voice calm. "Emily, how would you feel if Ryan told you that you couldn't attend one of his family events because you didn't come from the same kind of background as them? Would you be okay with that?" There was a pause. Then, almost dismissively, she said, "It's different. This is my wedding. You're blowing it out of proportion." "No, Emily," I said, my voice rising despite myself. "It's not about blowing anything out of proportion. It's about respect. Daniel has been with me for 3 years. You're telling me he's not welcome. That's disrespectful, and I can't accept it. I can't just pretend he doesn't exist for one day because it fits some fantasy you have for your wedding." She scoffed and hung up. After that, everything escalated. My parents tried to pull me aside during family gatherings to talk. Emily sent passive-aggressive messages calling me selfish, and my extended family kept sending me guilt-laden texts about ruining memories. I didn't budge. Every time they tried to pressure me, I calmly restated my position. I would not attend without Daniel. Period. They accused me of being dramatic, overreacting, selfish, ruining family unity. I countered every point with examples from our past, the favoritism, the double standards, the constant judgment. They accused me of holding grudges. I told them it was about respect and basic decency. Nothing changed. Finally, the day of the wedding arrived. My phone was flooded with messages from relatives begging me to just come, to just show up, without Daniel. I ignored most of them. I dressed in my own clothes, took a long walk to clear my head, and called Daniel. We talked for a while, and he reassured me that standing my ground was the right choice. I felt a strange mix of grief and relief. I didn't go. I stayed home. I didn't even watch the photos being posted online. For the first time in years, I let myself be selfish in a way that actually mattered. I chose my dignity and my relationship. After that, I made a decision. I cut off contact with my family, at least temporarily. I unfollowed everyone on social media. It was the only way I could breathe without being attacked or guilt. It's been 2 weeks since the wedding. I haven't spoken to Emily, my parents, or most of my extended family. Daniel has been amazing, reminding me that I did the right thing, and that standing up for ourselves sometimes comes with consequences, even painful ones. I know I've lost some relationships. I know some family members will probably never forgive me. But I also feel lighter, freer, and finally, like I'm not bending myself to fit someone else's fantasy. So now I'm here. AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because she uninvited my boyfriend, and insisting on cutting off contact with my family after all the fallout. Update. After the intense fallout from Emily's wedding, things became eerily quiet. For months, no one called, no one messaged my parents, Emily, the extended family, nothing. At first, it felt isolating. It hurt to lose family connections, even ones that had been complicated and emotionally draining. But after a while, the silence became peaceful. Daniel and I leaned on each other more than ever. The constant drama of Emily and my parents was gone, and we could focus on building our own life without guilt or judgment hovering over us. Months later, Daniel surprised me with a weekend getaway. He had a small picnic set up, and as the sun began to set, he knelt on one knee and asked me to marry him. I was so overwhelmed I could barely speak at first, but of course, I said yes. We decided we didn't want a huge, complicated wedding. We wanted something intimate, meaningful, and stress-free. So we planned a small ceremony with just our closest friends and a few family members who were supportive of us, people who mattered to us and genuinely cared about our happiness. The day of the wedding was beautiful. It was simple, heartfelt, and exactly what we wanted. We didn't invite my parents. We didn't invite Emily. Not a single member of the family that had tried to control and guilt me over Daniel's presence. And you know what? It was freeing. For the first time, a wedding felt like it was about us and not anyone else's image or expectations. A year later, I discovered I was pregnant. I was ecstatic, and Daniel and I spent weeks planning, imagining, and preparing for our new life. Eventually, the news somehow leaked to my family. My parents reached out, cautiously, trying to reconnect. Messages, emails, even a couple of phone calls. They acted as if everything that had happened between us had simply faded. I didn't respond. For me, their attempts were too little, too late. After everything, the favoritism, the disrespect, the wedding drama, and the total disregard for me and Daniel, I couldn't just pretend like none of it happened. Their lack of effort to repair anything after our wedding told me everything I needed to know. I wasn't ready to welcome them back into my life. Months later, I gave birth to a beautiful baby boy. Holding him in my arms, I felt a profound sense of peace. I had my little family, my supportive partner, and a home filled with love, the kind of life I had always wanted, without the chaos and judgment from my family hanging over us. Then one day, Emily reached out, not from her usual account, but from a different one. She asked to meet the baby. I calmly told her that wasn't going to happen. She followed up with a request for photos so she could post them on social media. I refused. And then came the rant. She called me selfish, cruel, heartless. She said what she had done, excluding Daniel from her wedding, her perceived stress, was not a big deal, and that I was blowing everything out of proportion. I read her messages for a moment, then blocked her mid-rant. I didn't care about her anger. I didn't feel the need to justify my boundaries to someone who had repeatedly shown that they didn't respect me or my family. A few days after I blocked Emily, I thought that was the end of it. It wasn't. Out of nowhere, I got a call from my dad. I stared at my phone for a long time before answering. Part of me already knew this wasn't going to be a calm, "we miss you" kind of conversation. I picked up anyway. At first, his tone was almost normal. "Hi," he said, like we hadn't gone over a year without speaking. I didn't respond right away. I just said, "Yeah." Then my mom got on the line too. "We want to meet our grandson," she said, like it was a simple, obvious thing. Not a request, more like a demand. I took a breath. I'm not comfortable with that. There was a pause. Then my dad's tone hardened immediately. "What do you mean you're not comfortable? We're his grandparents." And there it was. Not "how are you," not "can we talk," not "we're sorry." Just entitlement. "I understand that," I said, keeping my voice steady, "but you haven't spoken to me in over a year. The last time we talked, you were all blaming me and disrespecting my relationship. Nothing has been resolved." My mom cut in, already getting emotional. "Oh, so now we have to beg to see our own grandchild?" "No," I said calmly. "You don't have to beg. But you do have to take responsibility for how you treated me." That's when things started escalating. My dad scoffed. "This again? You're still stuck on that? It was a wedding." I felt that familiar frustration rise, but I didn't raise my voice. "It wasn't just a wedding," I said. "It was years of favoritism, disrespect, and you expecting me to just accept it." My mom sighed loudly. "We're not doing this. We just want to meet the baby. Why are you making everything so difficult?" And then, like clockwork, it shifted to Daniel. "Well," my dad said, "if you hadn't chosen someone who complicates things." I froze for a second. What does that mean? He didn't even hesitate. You know exactly what I mean. This whole situation started because of him. If you had picked someone more suitable, none of this would have happened. There it was again. That same judgment. That same dismissiveness. Like Daniel was the problem. Like the way they treated him and me was justified. I felt something in me just shut off. Do not talk about my husband like that, I said, my voice completely flat now. My mom jumped in defensive. We're just being honest. You've changed since you've been with him. You've become distant, disrespectful. No. I cut her off. I've just stopped accepting being treated badly. There was a brief silence. Then my dad said, colder than before, if you keep this up, don't expect us to keep trying. I almost laughed at that. You haven't been trying, I said. Reaching out now because there's a baby involved isn't trying. It's convenient. My mom started crying again, saying I was breaking the family, that I was keeping their grandson away out of spite. And that's when I realized something. Nothing had changed. Not their mindset. Not their behavior. Not the way they saw me or Daniel or this entire situation. I'm not doing this anymore, I said quietly. My dad snapped. So that's it? You're choosing him over your own family? I didn't even hesitate. I'm choosing the family I built, I said. There was silence on the line. Then, as a final jab, my dad muttered, don't come crying to us when this all falls apart. That was it. That was the moment any remaining doubt disappeared. It won't, I said. Goodbye. And I hung up. Then I blocked their numbers. No second-guessing. No guilt spiral. No tears. Just clarity. Since then, life has settled into a calm, joyful rhythm. Daniel, our son, and I have created a home full of love and respect. We don't have the drama, we don't have the guilt, and we don't have the constant stress of being judged or manipulated. I still think about my parents sometimes, but I know that keeping my distance is what keeps me sane, safe, and happy. I'm finally living the life I want, on my own terms. No guilt, no pressure, no interference. Just peace.